Hello, and welcome back to episode 19 of the Pitchmasters podcast. We are joined today by a special guest, Mr. Troy Sowers. He's a hobby enthusiast, CR7 in particular, in his Real Madrid kit. He's a collector, new breaker on Whatnot under the Graded Vault name. In addition to that, he is a tech guru, car lover, and, as Benzini claims, a sour Sowers. Welcome in, Mr. Troy Sowers. We appreciate you joining us. Is there anything you'd like to say for those people who don't know you out there that are watching and may have seen your name on Whatnot?
Well, now you get to see the mug. That's the first thing. No, that was look at you with the great intro. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be on. It's from my side. This is very familiar because I've been in how many breaks with you guys, and I hear the voice all the time, and you guys don't normally get to hear my voice all the time. Well, lately you get to hear my voice a lot more, but especially the mug in the face. So yeah, no, I'm a big soccer card guy, big Pokemon card guy, but mostly, soccer lately has been the thing. And as you mentioned, CR7 only in the Madrid kit. Portugal kit will be second, but no Juve kit. And all the goats in soccer. So I appreciate the intro, and I'm happy to be here.
So yeah, no, we appreciate you jumping on, having a discussion about specifically soccer cards and a few other hobbies that you enjoy. But I did want to kick things off here today, speaking about your CR7 collection, because you are known as the CR7 guy, and so we kind of have to dive down into this collection. I'm not sure there's anybody I know out there on Instagram or in the Whatnot community that has such a deep CR7 collection variants. I mean, I know it's specifically Real Madrid kit, but you are a guy with a collection from, in terms of modern stuff, all the sets that we pretty much saw over the course of this year, you have autos from. In addition to that, you're also now going back and starting to collect some of the more older and premium sets like the Selects field levels from 2016 and other sets as well. So I just want to ask you pretty basically, where's your collection standing now? What are you looking forward to in the future to expand upon with CR7 specifically? And from which set this year, I'm throwing like three questions at once at you, but from what set this year as well in 2023 calendar year is your favorite CR7 Ronaldo auto?
So let me start with the whole CR7. So I was born in '90, right? So I was kind of prime '90s Man U, Benzini, your team, right? Like Beckham, all that kind of era of soccer when I was young and growing up. And I also followed Ronaldinho heavily. But in the
Yep.
'90s, the late '90s, 2000s, soccer cards weren't really. I mean, sports cards in general still kind of I would say junk wax, but it was coming out of that kind of junk wax era. I was really big into Pokemon, played a lot of soccer. There was never cards. And then obviously Ronaldinho, David Beckham, kind of in his prime. That transitionary period, there was a lot of players that kind of came up and about, but Messi was kind of quiet. Like in the early 2000s, he was a big deal in the soccer community, but like from I would say a publicity standpoint, his name wasn't as prominent as like CR when Ronaldo came to Man U and debuted at Man U and really kind of put a staple out there. It's just like Beckham, right? It was kind of he's here, and I kind of always remember that. And in middle school, high school, playing, and then what was it, 2008? He announced his move, I think, to Madrid. So 2009 was his first season. So I would have been 18, 19, prime like youth wanting to play soccer, really take it seriously. Followed him to Madrid, and I mean, you guys know what happened at Madrid with him. It was the Modric, Bale, CR7, just decimation, and then obviously being able to understand the rivalry between Messi, Ronaldo, CR7. So I kind of always have a very fond memory of just CR7 sticking out to me. As a kid, I liked his flair. I liked how he played. People always do the comparison of Messi and Ronaldo, but they're two totally different players in their own right at the same level, in my opinion. CR7, I'm a flair guy. I like the flicks. I like the tricks, but then I also love how Messi can find a pass that all three of us totally just didn't even know was there. So I appreciate it from that court, but a little piece of me likes the bright, shiny cleats of Ronaldo. So that was the first part. So I really, when I got back into cards heavily, CR7 was always a big name. Obviously, Mbappe, Ronaldinho. The older players don't have a lot of attainable cards, I would say. Like look at Ronaldinho. If I could get a patch auto for Ronaldinho, go find me one if you can find one, right? So this year was special because Ronaldo being over in the Saudi league now, there's no restrictions on team kits, right? So Tops and Panini both did a really good job, most more so Tops, but putting him in iconic kits and iconic poses um, that just I gravitate to, and I think everybody in the hobby has. I mean, they put his autos in pretty much every product this year, and they're all him doing some sort of infamous
See?
celebration. Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, and that's a memorable moment. I mean, I can hear that moment. You can see him running and circling, and you just hear the crowd. And so this year's sets, particularly when I was really wanting to start collecting some more of him. So I went back. I have some of the World Cup, like the 2006 World Cup set. I got Messi, Ronaldo from there. Some of the older 2009 Mundi Chromo, his first kind of Real Madrid stuff. But then this year, I just thought it was cool because it's the first year that he's back in, kind of the let's say the legend. Even though he's still playing, I think he's probably at that like legend status from the card standpoint, in terms of images and things like that. So I started collecting, yeah, as you said, every single. I mean, I hit most of them. I didn't really actually buy them all. I
Yeah.
was in breaks with everybody and just was fortunate enough to hit some early on, and others I've spent. It's probably way cheaper just to go buy the dang thing, but I just they resonate with me. Some of Messi's images are Messi's messy. Like you look at him, it doesn't matter if he's sitting down, smiling, or whatever. It's messy. But the CR7 images, I think, really just with how flamboyant he was and how he just kind of carries his presence on the field. Those images photograph really well on a card. So, and leading into your last question, say probably the favorite Ronaldo card from this year. Is that the I have probably the Topps Chrome, the
Top Chrome
Topps Chrome,
Classic.
him
Yeah.
just screaming that's everybody. You don't have to know cards to know that image.
Yeah, no,
So
entirely. No, I appreciate you sharing all that. And you made an interesting point in there when you talked about your collection from um, this year specifically, how you hit a lot of them in breaks versus you could just go out
yeah.
and buy them and probably save money by buying them. And I want to ask, is there a greater appreciation or emphasis you put on the cards that you pack, pull, and breaks versus the ones that you buy in the open market? And do you think that to some degree the premium of breaking over time, you're not going to get as much value, but having that being pulled and having that moment creates more value than just going out and saving a couple $100 or even more potentially by just going to buy it on the open market?
Yeah, yeah, 1,000% for me. So my personal opinion is obviously you need to be able to afford to go do that, right?
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's part of the. You need to have some sense of self discipline to say, I'm expecting over time to pay 400% comms on this card by chasing it,
Yeah.
and that's how there's obviously some risk to that. But when you do hit that card, obviously it's like being in a casino if you're old enough to get to go there and winning, right? It's a feeling, but it makes the chase to your point. It makes obtaining that card part of the process to me, part
Yeah.
of the experience of getting the card. I have the memories of not only me pulling it whether it's myself, but Ben or Sean, you pulling it yourself,
Yeah.
right? You guys being there with me and all the other people in the community, right? Like
Right. Right.
a lot of people know that if there's a wheel spin, they know what team I want on the wheel. They don't, everybody knows why I'm there and what team I'm there to get. But it's a memorable moment that I get to share with others. And obviously, if it's in a break too, nowadays it's recorded. I could go back and relive that. I don't just have to be there in person. You guys, the joke is I go to my basement, I rip packs of cards, and I scream. My dog look at me like I'm an idiot. My fiance looks at me like rolls her eyes, but that's it. Like that's the memory. Whereas if I do hit it in a break, that's also potentially somebody else will remember that moment, and they say, well, maybe what if that could happen to me, or what if what if I could do this? So for me, it carries a lot of weight. Like, and that's how I differentiate. If I go out and just buy a card and I like, oh, I just want it because I want it. I actually am more apt to move that card later. Like if it's not part of a set, and I just go out and I say, oh, I buy this card, I graded it raw, and I want something else now. I'm more apt to actually move that because it has no background with me, no
Yeah.
sense of story with it, other than oh, I just bought it for a good deal and graded it and want to move it for something bigger. I'm more wanting to keep the cards that cost less for me to get by getting lucky in a break and having that experience
Yep.
than I am to going and buying a card and then move. I'm more apt to move the one that I actually put more money into, which is kind of a counterintuitive thought process. But that's my personal preference. Some people
So
totally opposite,
would
right?
you say that like some of the cards in your collection they mean more to you, but the value is like not your most expensive card in your collection?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 There's like so there I have cards that are 150 $200 that I they mean a lot to me because I just remember where I was, what I was doing. That I was with Emily or I was with somebody. I did it. I pulled the card at a card show, and it's worth now $500-600, and I don't care to sell it. It just depends. To me, I like the story. I like the experience of how I pulled it, where I pulled it. And I used to be a hoarder of cards. I think we all at some point were like, I'm going to get every single card of every player. And I'm actually starting to look at my collection and say, which cards to me, like at quick glance, I pull them all out. I look at them all. They're all beautiful, but I go through them and I say, okay, I remember this story. I remember this story. Those immediately go back into the PC pile because there's a story associated with them. The other ones I say, okay, these 10, I don't mind moving 8 of them. They don't have any significance to me. I got them in a trade or back a year ago, 2 years ago, I wanted something different. So it changes, but yeah, the value to me, the monetary value, I'm a little less attracted to the monetary value at times because I appreciate the story and the collecting aspect of it. Now, if you sink a lot of money into a card and you bought a card and now you find another card that you really want, you have to make a decision of, you know, how bad do you want it? So,
Yeah. No, I'm the same way with the story being connected to the card where I'll pack pull stuff from a blaster myself and get it great and say I don't even care like market value. If I get an offer, I'm not moving it, just because of the story. But yeah, no, thanks for that insight on that. But Troy, I'm gonna switch the subject real quick and ask you something um, about your social media presence. You're an accomplished YouTuber in addition to being a collector, and I haven't asked you much about you know your love for cars, but I'm curious if you had to put comparison Cars for Love with car or love for cards, cars versus cards. Where does your love sit more between the two different entities?
well, I mean, right now I would say cards because it's cold and windy and miserable
There.
outside here. But whew, that's a really good question. I mean, I think I actually have that in the bio, right? Cards and cars. Um, it just depends for me. I've been around cars, automobiles, my whole life. So again, I have stories from my childhood that I vaguely remember, but I remember very, very minuscule details that for some reason never escape me.
Hmm.
So I've just been around cars to the point where it's become a part of my life. I joke you can drive a car, you can't drive a house. It's the running joke in the car world. But I have very fond memories with like my neighbor growing up. He built a '68 Corvette from scratch, like pieced it like it all showed up in pallets and crates, and I was friends with his kid. So I was always over there hanging out with him, and he was always out in the garage working on cars. And I was when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old, and then all my friends had cars, and I remember connecting with people through cars, going to car shows, Cars and Coffee, all of that, and kind of also people collecting cars. Obviously, a different level than cards sometimes, but uh, there's a big community around it, and that was a big part of my life growing up too. Participating in the car shows, doing the charity car events, things like that. So it's still important to me to be involved in that. And I do still appreciate that community. It resonates very well with the cards community, right? I wouldn't have met both of you if I wasn't diving into the community. I appreciate the stories, the connections, the people that you meet, the people that you continue to communicate with. One of the guys in my wedding, my best man at my wedding, I met through cars, and I
Yeah.
3 out of the 5 people in my groomsmen party are from cars. And I look back and say, hey, if I wouldn't have been so heavily involved in cars, I wouldn't be there. So right now, cards to me, cards. This is fun. Cards, sports cards are just as important, even though they kind of are taking the front burner right now. They're prioritized. It's a seasonal thing, right? One day you'll catch me out in a nice summer day. I'll be out in the car doing stuff, running around. But it's hard for me to pick. I really, you had to tell me I had to give one up.
Yeah.
If that's really what you're asking me,
It
if I had to
wasn't,
give
but now
one
I'm
up,
curious. Now I'm curious to hear this.
yeah. Oh man, I would. Do I have to answer that? I guess I have to answer that now.
Well, you put yourself on this.
I know.
You have to. Yeah, you put yourself in this position.
Can I buy back the card? I can come back into the card hobby.
No, I think this is like, you have to completely
walk away
eliminate one from the hobby. And obviously, you're going to need a car to drive, but like from an actual, you know what I mean? When
We're
I say
talking
get rid
like
of cars, like
the fun cars.
the fun part of the car set, not just like to get you from point A to point B type thing. So you got to eliminate one entity entirely from your leisure.
It might have to be the sports cards, just because I have such a long connection with cars in my childhood and growing up, and the people that I'm very good friends with today that are very important to me were through that, through that avenue. That it did a lot of good for me and the people that I met and the role models that I met, that I would want to keep doing that for the next generation.
That's fair.
There's your answer.
We'll take it. That's a fair answer. Benzini, what do you drive?
You're very curious, Sean.
I'm curious. Yeah, now we're on cars. We'll go back to cars, but I'm curious.
An economy car. Nothing fancy on this side.
Hey, same. I don't, okay, fair enough. not giving me a specific make and model, but all right.
Economy car is enough.
What's the, you ever see Employee of the Month? He's like, how dare you? This is an 89 Honda. That's a phenomenal vehicle, by the way.
Yeah. Sweet. So we'll probably do a cut there from there, and we'll reintroduce something else. But that was really good. I didn't realize how long you've been in the car game as well. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's dude. I've met a lot of people through cars have been a very important part of my life. The success that I have are through people that I've met through cars.
Yeah.
So it's pretty important. Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. Benzini, do you wanna kick us off again here, or do you want me to take the charge again?
I do have one question for Mr. Sowers. All right, diving a little bit back into it, Troy. When was the first time you bought a pack, collected a card, whether it's Pokemon, any sports card? At what age did you know that you were going to collect cards?
Man, now you're really making me go back. So, like I said, I was a '90s baby, so it was probably Pokemon was 1999 was the card, so it's probably the Pokemon craze. So you two might be too young for this, but some of the other viewers might remember. If you remember Pogs, Pogs, there were these little I think like $50 size chips almost, and that was like the big rage mid 90s, and I collected those like crazy. So I've had kind of that addictive collecting mindset of those dorky, quirky, stupid things from the 90s. And then obviously Pokemon with the Game Boy, me being a kind of a techie kid. I was fortunate my dad was pretty techie in the 90s. So I know that sounds weird to say tech in the 90s, but I was around that. So I had a Game Boy early on. So the whole Pokemon thing got me going. And then, oh man, the trading cards on Pokemon, signed me up. I had to take all my allowance money to beg my parents to take me to the local BJ's Wholesale Club, the mini Costco. Take me in there and go get one pack. And I do remember there was this little sports card shop. It's called Sports Cards Plus in Pennsylvania. It was in a strip mall, and it was funny. There's still card shops that look like this, but imagine what a mid '90s card shop looks like. And the packs were in there. And I remember going in there and I bought 3 packs. Didn't get the Charizard. I was so pissed, and started making the binder. And then I did all my trading and buying at school.
Oh,
So
like
I didn't actually do the
stuff?
pack chase, but my first packs were Pokemon packs,
Well,
and then I started getting some like baseball, basketball, like Upper Deck, early like 2000s Upper Deck packs. But really, Pokemon was the first like pack rip. I would say when I was a kid, you didn't even open it in the, like you just bought it at the store and ripped it. You didn't even take it home. That was like what you did. And then my dad's like, I remember my parents like, okay, well, there's $3 out the window, like, because I think there were $2.99. I think is what the price was in 1999. So
wow.
that was
Imagine
my
what those
first.
edition
That
packs
was the
go
first
for
pack rip.
now.
So yeah,
Crazy.
Pokemon is the reason why I spend way too much money with everybody right now. Is really what
Well,
we're summarizing here.
right, exactly. Entirely
No,
responsible
Pogs
because of,
actually.
well, I
Pogs
want to
is
say,
Pogs, yeah,
yeah, that's right.
yes,
Pogs,
shout
yeah.
out
That's
to
right.
Pogs. Poggers, baby.
Because of Pokemon, though, I want to talk a bit about how graded vault, like where you stand as a collector and a seller, which differs a lot from typical just individual buyers or individual sellers. You, unlike a lot of people, have had the experience of having the graded vault and the connection to Pokemon, the online whatnot presence in that sort of TCG
Mhm.
community space. You've had the experience of a buyer on whatnot in the soccer space, and you also are now getting into breaking yourself, and you also sell on eBay. You set up at card shows. So, in addition to running a sports card business, also being like an avid buyer as well, is there any specific part of the hobby that you favor more than any other, given that you've been like sort of in all different areas of it?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I would say buying as a business is a little challenging for me because usually when I'm buying, you're in a buyer mindset, right?
Yep.
A collector mindset. If you don't do this for fun or slash a living, when you're buying something, it's because you usually want to keep it. You're buying something because you want to add it to your collection or you like the card, anything in general, really, or you need it, right? It's a necessity. The challenge that I've had to learn is buying as a business, so spending the money to potentially make the money down the road, which that's been the struggle from a hobby standpoint because sometimes I'll buy a collection of something because I like the card in it. And then that the challenge becomes, do I want to keep that card when that's the card that will make 22% on the investment, right? So there's been a little bit of a struggle of balancing that out. I tend to I like kind of all facets of it. I joke with being like I'm a Renaissance man. I would love to just influx, like the Matrix, just plug me in and just let me download anything and everything. So I like the fact that I get to see both sides. The buying for the business though is also very rewarding though.
Hmm.
It allows you to build up a community. It allows you to bring inventory in, and then when you sell something and you actually turn it around for a profit and you don't lose on it, uh, it really it's kind of pats yourself on the back. You're like, hey, that actually like I thought through this. I made a decisive decision to purchase something with the possibility of using my community, using my network of people to move something. Um, so that's been pretty rewarding lately because the breaks. If you're spending money as a buyer and you're buying in the breaks and you're not hitting anything,
Hmm.
don't think anybody's enjoying that at
Right.
all.
Oh,
Like
no, definitely not.
it's not a fun experience, which is what makes the selling rewarding because if you can buy and sell, you can use that to fund the thrill of the chase, right? Or the participation in the breaks. And again, these are things that I classify to people, don't get into breaks if you're not willing to walk away with zero.
With zero, yeah. Rip
Like like
responsible. Yeah,
like
exactly.
yeah, Benzini knows like the
Mhm.
CR7 Sapphire, man. It's like usually there's one per case. Like I'm like, all right, fine, I'll get in one. When we get the one case that doesn't have one, and it's like
Yeah, I
poof.
sent you an old card,
Benzini,
old
come on,
CR7
Benzini.
card though, so still had to make sure you
Yeah,
walk
it's but you have
Yeah.
to go into it like
Yeah.
as the breaker, you feel right. I remember Ben, you text me, you're like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm like, you have to go into it assuming like it's just going to be nothing. Whereas the business side of it, when you're buying, like if you go buy a case of product, you know that you're not stuck with nothing, right? Like you're just going to use super round numbers. You spent $1,000 for a case of product. You know that at minimum you can sell that case back out for probably $1,000 if you bought it correct and you bought it
Yep.
right. So there's
Yep.
still some tangible, there's still some sense of security with from the business standpoint, buying product, obviously if the product tanks and the economy tanks, you're stuck with that product, but at least you have a tangible asset in the inventory. Whereas a break, if you're just in this having fun and you're hoping to hit the lottery, basically, long term, that's not really unless you're buying into $2 breaks and your price ranges accordingly. But my long-winded answer of I enjoy both sides of it. I think the business side is a very rewarding if you're doing it right and you're having fun. Plus, you get to meet people that you wouldn't probably meet as just buying into breaks, right?
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. I mean, it's also equally as fun pulling red or orange CR7 Sporting Lisbon Auto after R9 has already been hit and you thought you were out of the game and you were saved by the bell.
Shout out to Griff, man. I think everybody.
I watched that live. That was crazy. Live.
I remember. So back to the story that we were talking about earlier. I remember where I was. Right. I remember where I was sitting, what I was doing. I was sitting on the left side of the couch, watching TV with the break on my laptop. I was working. I kind of multitask when I'm doing all this stuff. I remember Emily was laying there sleeping, and I was like, I remember cursing because I saw the R9 come out, and I was like, because you guys know how it is. Usually that's like the case hit, like legend auto per case, and it's finest. Usually there's not usually finest cases aren't like.
Sometimes they don't even get one.
Yeah, and it was just, and I was like, it's over. And then it was literally, I think the next box, it was like 4 packs after the Ronaldo. And I saw if on that card, when you slide it up from the bottom, the breaker slide, right? You slide up from the bottom, you can see the old school vapors. So me playing soccer my whole life, I saw those vapors. I was like, those are CR7 Superflies. And you pull it up, you see green forward for Sporting, and it's orange wave. It's got to be a legend. And I was like, there's no way Griff is about to do this. And then we've all talked to Griff. Griff goes AWOL. I thought he was going to throw my card, and it was a memorable experience. But again, you can't replace that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Here I am. That card to me, I probably won't sell because I just told you the story of where I remember that, and I probably spent. Probably about that or more on that spot overall trying to hit that card, but I don't care. The story to me and sharing that story is way more valuable and important.
Fair.
You don't collect Sporting, only Real Madrid, so.
That's
right.
Sporting Real Madrid.
That's the funny story because I remember telling Ben, I was telling you, I was like, I'm not going to do any finest issue. I was telling everybody that.
Dude, everybody's like, you going to do finest? I'm not participating at all. He's like, I'm going to
Stadium Club was the end of the year. Yeah.
Stadium Club, I was done. So while we're here, let's go back. So Chrome came out and I hit, I was in Sunday Leagues breaks for probably 14 of I think they did 16 cases of Chrome. And I had CR7 in 14 of the cases. And the 2 cases that I missed, they pulled a CR7. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then I pulled one I pulled both my CR7 Chromes from a Lucy.
From Percy's, right?
Yeah.
Not
Percy's.
Break?
Yeah. Which, and then all the other ones I've hit in breaks, but so the Chrome one was, I got the Orange Lava, and then obviously shout out to Maddie at Wicked Soccer Cards. I think everybody's seen that clip where Percy, a loose box of Chrome just sitting in a pile.
That's how it always works.
$200 box of cards, and I was just like, and I remember the story. It was, I'm sitting there on the stream and he pulls up, he's like, what do you want? He slaps a pile right from one side of the case. He had 6 left, and I was like, give me the bottom
box, man. Bottom
box, and we're going. And I remember we pulled, the biggest hit was a Pedri Hero variation.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And then which was pretty for Chrome. We know how Chrome goes. I was like, okay, there's 10% of the box back there. And I remember he's like, we got a red. And then he was like, we got a red. Slid the card out. We're like, it's Real Madrid. And I'm like, there's no way that this is. There's impossible. And then you see forward. You see FWD, and And then I remember him going, "Please be CR7," and just ripped that thing off. And I about threw my phone. I remember again, I was down on the couch,
Were
threw
you
my
left
phone.
side of the couch?
I was literally in the same
Left
spot.
side of
So
the
now I'm
couch.
like, now when you guys are breaking, I'm like, all right, what underwear was it? What socks? What pants was I on?
Which
It's
lucky
the same.
underwear. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. But again, it's crazy. So I hit those. I hit Merlin, Pat's Pools. I hit the Sorcerer's CR7 Auto on release day. I jumped into 2 cases of that. Stadium Club, Benzini missed me by 1 on the duel. Shout
Dude,
out
I missed
Amanda
you
though.
by like one on. I had 2 hidden gems in one case too. That was
Yeah, that one too. Well,
Crazy.
you hit me the Salzburg rail though.
yeah.
Remember when I took the wheel down? So that was fine. So I've missed some. I've missed by like this
you.
much,
Yeah, that dual auto you
but
missed by like.
I've hit also like the not to talk values, but like the red CR7 Chrome card raw does $5,500. I think like there's only been one that sold. It's out
Wow.
of 5. Like out of a $200 box. So you can't. It's how it is, right? You win some, you lose some. So I remember all that. And then for Finest coming all the way back around. Finest, I was telling Ben, I was like, I'm not doing Finest. I'm
He
all
was
right.
like, "Yeah,
Like,
I'm not buying a single break." And then like a week later, he's like, "Yo, you got the
Yeah,
sporting spot
sporting.
available?"
That's right. Yeah.
well, because everybody found out that and the checklist came out, and they were like, oh my God, CR7 is going to be in sporting. Like, this is going to be his first modern card in sporting kit.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's going to be a very memorable card in the future moving forward for him because he's going to have legacy or legend autos, I should say, in every set moving forward.
There's
But
no reason not to have him. It would like
this
deteriorate
will
the
be,
product.
yeah, this will be the year that his first modern card for sporting. So to me, that's important. So then of course now and then I collect Fatawu and he's in the sporting spot. So now there's no more cheap sporting spots because Ronaldo's in the
Yeah, true.
in the sporting spot. So it's funny. It's just coming full back with Griff and pulling that like here I say I'm never going to chase that card, and that's kind of how like I got into Griff. Really helping jumping in with Griff's breaks too. So it all comes full circle some way or another.
Yeah. No, remarkable stories, and hopefully you're gonna replicate it next year.
I mean, we'll see.
We'll see.
It
Yeah,
depends if
just kind
Select
of have to
comes
wait
out
to see.
because
Yep.
so the 4 product run of Select, while it was amazing, that that was exhausting. Like
Very
as
exhausting. Yeah.
for you guys breaking, I'm sure it was kind of exhausting because there's just so much product. But even as like a buyer, like if somebody who wants to participate in breaks, there was a lot of product this year. And I think that's what we're feeling now in the market right now is everybody's just it's not just the holidays. It's kind of like
A lot of buyer
holy
fatigue.
crap, that was a lot of product, especially for soccer.
Yeah.
Soccer never has that much product.
Yeah.
We're gonna get more select this year, I
I,
think, too.
it
Euros.
would be. Yeah. We are probably
Yeah,
gonna get Euros. It'd be nice to almost instead of getting like these installments of 4 different selects, which they never did before. It was always just 2015, 16,
right,
17.
right.
I would almost be for a set that has a checklist of combined leagues like that, where you just to try it out. I mean, it'd probably throw a lot of people off, and I don't know how it would work breaking it like this, but say like a 500 to 600 player checklist, highest print run per player is out of 50, and you still can keep the total box production size low, but still have just one sole select product that everybody's going to be designed to rip. Now it's going to suck when you get a box that you get some random seventh league.
2016 Select, where you're like, who is this?
Yeah, exactly.
Person?
And that would happen. You'd get some random La Liga guy from like some, team in the 18th place, and you'd be like, damn. But it's only numbered to 50, and it'd be good from like a sort of like compilation of all the separation.
It would be less exhausting, I think,
Yeah.
too, over time. Like as breakers,
Yeah.
you're not having to keep changing up the product count. Plus, not saying pricing wouldn't fluctuate, but I think it would be a much more steady, less chaotic break schedule. Like I think people would be a little more comfortable trying to take their time with it. Whereas like look at EPL, what was it? EPL came out first, right?
Yep.
And they had like a million cases BPL, and within the first like 2 weeks, anybody who didn't move that product was like you were sitting on it because the hits weren't like those tanked faster than Finest
They dropped
hits did, because
yeah,
it was so
yeah.
bad. Like, you're better off like EPL. I wouldn't even. So I also collect boxes, right? So I try to buy a hobby box of everything that comes out. If I buy a case, I'll tend to want to rip it, so I try to just buy a Lucy, and just put it on the shelf. But I still have not bought an EPL Select box,
Wow.
because I'm like, oh, okay, I can just go buy. I'll be able to buy one like 8 years from now,
Yeah.
because there's
Exactly.
there's not going to be anything left in it to hit, but B, there was so much of it, and that's kind of how Chrome is this year too.
Yeah.
Chrome's
There's always a
like,
lot of chrome too, though. That's like a normal standard.
yeah,
But Merlin
Chrome.
went up to 350 on their print as well. You know, all these sets are just driving their prints up, making, and that's largely responsible for like sort of the
I'd rather
taking
them
of thing
not
on the
even
singles
number it.
market.
Like,
Me too. Yeah.
if it's over 250, like, I'd
Yeah.
rather it just be an SP. Like,
I agree.
what bothers me is when you get like the orange lavas, where the print runs like out of 33, and then the orange out of 25
Hmm.
is numbered. I'm like, I'd rather you just like not like just put a number on any of the lower colored variants, and anything over that, consider those short print, because 300 is still considered to me short print in the grand scheme of millions and millions of cards being printed.
Yeah.
But the hobby doesn't reflect that way,
Yeah.
right? Like, if it's pretty much not under 100 nowadays, it's not. Maybe
I wouldn't even say
Artigula
100. I
cards,
would say
because
like 50.
But even
almost.
modern stuff, it's like gold out of 50
yeah,
markets are even tough right now. Like you have to hit like red out of 10 if you want, I think, long-term sustainable value.
yep.
You need red out of 10 or less,
Which is, it's
or short
crazy.
printed of some variation that is
Yeah,
going
or
to be
like the case,
appreciated.
like case hits or something that are
Yep.
widely well known to be short print. I'm curious about next year of just, for me, I will probably obviously participate, but from the business side, I'm also going to be breaking a lot more, so
Hmm.
I have to be a little more aware of this conversation, right? That we're having of, okay, do I need to buy this product because I don't do this full time? So if I can't rip this product in 3 weeks, am I going to be stuck, A, not being able to fill, but B, not be able to get the price that I need, or whatever?
Right.
If the product's going to drop, right, then I have to lower prices to match others, and then I'm stuck with products. So it's an interesting change for me going into next year of taking this time through the winter, like, look at it and say, if there's going to be a lot of product again, I need to probably be a little more pick and choose which breaks I want to run that are going to be less common. Like, Sean, you run the 20, like, you're like the 2016 select guy.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
everybody will always jump into that because there's not 50 people running that. But release day on Chrome, everybody's running Chrome.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like a
So
race
Right.
to the bottom too on
yeah,
stuff like that.
it's the race to get the checklist, to get the first breaks up, and then you have to adjust the checklist from there. So going into next year, while I say I'm going to probably participate, I also, from the breaking side, I'm going to participate to also learn what is working when I go to break it, right? And I
Mhm.
think that's what part of the interesting dynamic that I have is I've been in so many breaks. I know how they work. I know the pricing. I
Yeah.
know who has things priced, and I can price mine to make sure I'm not overpriced. And I don't not that I want to undercut anybody, but I also don't want to be so low where it drops the floor for everybody else when I'm off, right?
Right.
So it's important to understand and participate. And that's my recommendation to people is, if you're going to break, go spend your money in breaks so you can invest and see how it works, because you have to also be invested as a breaker and understand the logistics, the professionalism, the product, right? How to care for the cards, all of that. So next year is going to be interesting for me. I'm curious to see how much I participate as the buyer, but also, as the breaker. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Graded Vault Breaks on Whatnot has in store for more soccer breaks by Mr. Troy Sowers. Dude, we appreciate you coming on today. Unless there's any last minute points by Ben here, I think thank you for sharing kind of your thoughts on some of the hobby and
I,
your personal experience.
I got one for you two.
Yeah, let's
You
hear
guys
it.
have been doing this
Oh,
for a little bit.
really?
Yeah, we're
Let's
gonna
go for it. Come on.
let me ask. So, as breakers yourself, that's been doing this for a little bit, right? And you're seeing, you have somebody like myself who was as a customer, still as a customer, but transitioning to doing breaking. For me, mostly the breaking is appeasing my need to want to rip stuff, and
Mhm.
then and talking and building a community. But what has been the biggest challenge the biggest challenge for you guys this year? Has it been there's been so many other breakers? Was it the product influx? Was it the tops changing and how allocation goes right from them now? Like from your standpoint, what has been the biggest? What's the biggest win and the biggest loss slash challenge of the year?
I'll just kick things off here, and I think the biggest thing really is just the commitment of all the behind the scenes work that takes place when it comes to breaking and just ripping on whatnot in general. And I think you see this a lot with new people coming in, new breakers who want to be part of the breaking scene. They create an account, they start, and then they don't realize the 2 hours of packing that gets associated with it, the tracking of all the offline or whatever payments and such, the
Yeah.
going to the post office, acquiring product at a price that makes sense so that you can break it at a price that makes sense and that's competitive so that you're on the market so that people are willing to enjoy a break with you. These types of things.
Right.
All that the behind the scenes stuff I think is like 80 to 90% of what actually is like the total kind of end to end process. And then the actual streaming is just a slight sliver of sort of the what I just explained essentially. And so there's a big emphasis on that, and I think that's what's largely responsible for a lot of people who start breaking. They choose to not continue doing it because, well, after you open a case to a product, you got to go sort for 2 hours and package it up, get it out the next morning, right? And not everybody has the willingness to do that and be committed to that. And if you're not, well then, fortunately, I'd say it's kind of tough to kind of consistently be a part of that game. So I'd say that's the biggest. I don't know if that falls under the win or loss. Probably like going into it, just be prepared for the total sheer amount of work that's
It's the
required.
iceberg. Whatnot is the iceberg.
Yep,
People forget that
Yeah,
there's a
they
whole.
that's a
just see
great
the
point.
top of
Yeah,
the iceberg, but
that's
everything
that's a
below
good
it.
point. Yeah.
Um,
Uh, so that'd be my take. Ben, what do you think?
I would say that the most challenging thing, I don't necessarily think that like the sorting and packaging is like challenging for like what I see as a challenge. Because like I actually like enjoy sometimes like
I
doing mindless.
weirdly enjoy
Yeah,
sorting.
like
Yeah.
weirdly enjoy doing like mindless work and like it like gets my mind off of things too. You just like you see the team, bop bop bop. And I really do enjoy like sending out like a finished product to the customer. Like when I put that label on, it's like the most satisfying thing. Like they trusted me to get into the break. Hopefully they had a good time. Honestly, that's like my end goal is for people to have a good time when they're in the streams. Even if they're not hitting like huge cards, at least like they're chatting, making jokes, whatever, feeling like they're a part of the community, and that's like
Right.
the most important thing for me. So I'd say that's the most rewarding thing. But the challenging thing has been like acquiring product due to like the new change with Fanatics and Tops, and from like a capital standpoint, when there's like bunch of releases on top of another, like nobody has like unlimited money, so you have to like kind of pick and choose which ones you want to run. And um,
Yeah.
I would probably say that that's probably the biggest challenge. But another point to what Sean says, sometimes like it becomes like it is like a grind, consistently streaming and then packaging. It's like this cycle that people don't really see behind the scenes.
Yep.
So
And
Yeah.
that's what I from my standpoint. That's why I think it's important to be also a buyer and participate because like my first stream, it went better than I thought it would because to me it was no different than being in the group, right? And I had a lot of the
Yep.
same people that came in, such as yourselves and other just buyers that came in and supported the break because they said, "Hey, I know this guy, right? I want to support him. Like we always have a good time and a good good round of chat and whatnot." So it's good to hear that from your perspectives too. And I think that's people need to understand that it's not just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of professionalism, there's a lot of community still behind it, and then there at the end of the day, there's a lot of grit work, shipping supplies, that stuff's costs money, and
Yep.
you got to do it all. So
It's true. But I didn't answer what my favorite part was. It's still the sweat of a gold checkerboard from 2016, or a blue auto. And Troy, I didn't tell you what happened last night. 2016 Select blue auto sweat. Decide to go from the back, reveal it from the bottom instead of the top to see the initial.
Mhm.
Start to slide up. Saw the name Lionel Messi on it. I scream, freak out, reveal the filler card. It was a Sergio Romero, and it just referenced Messi in the description of the caption.
Oh,
Every
what a
everybody, oh dude,
letdown.
it was brutal. It was brutal. So,
It has
but
like a
See,
foundation that they put on back of the
yeah,
cards, and it
yeah,
probably had that.
someone's going to remember that story, though.
yeah,
Someone will
that's
remember
right.
that. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
exactly. So
Oh,
those are
but
the
no,
moments, though.
this was great. Thank you for having me. I know this. We can ramble on a little bit. I've got plenty more stories to tell, but maybe I'll save those.
Yeah, we'll have to come
for
to
my
Pennsylvania
stream
for
sometime.
story time.
That's right.
At a
Yeah.
future date.
Anytime you guys want to come, just come in the summertime.
Sure. Hit up a card show
Well,
as well next year. I'm sure we'll see you in
yeah.
person at some point for sure.
Yep.
So
For sure.
appreciate it, Troy. All right.
Thanks,
Take it
Troy.
easy.
Thank
Check
you.
him out. Troy Sowers on Instagram and Great Vault if you stuck around to the end. Take it easy. Peace.
See ya.
All right. Let me stop this recording here.
Yo, very good
Dude, right
question,
on time.
Troy.